Let's talk about some of the most interesting concepts, and that is remote sensing. Now, what happens under remote sensing is really interesting. So, what we have is, unlike the aerial photographs that we have understood before, remote sensing is a different branch where we are trying to gather information beyond the visible spectrum of light. And when it is beyond the visible spectrum of light, it's basically all the range of radiations that are absorbed, emitted, and reflected from the surface above a temperature of 0 degree Kelvin. So it includes the infrared rays as well. And the term remote sensing was initially started during 1960s. However, the idea of acquiring the information based on remote sensing was further strengthened, and many more developments were later made. So if we talk about the process of remote sensing, first of all, we need to have a source of energy. Definitely, sun is the most obvious source of energy, but we do have artificial sources which we call as self-emission sources. Now these include the flash guns that are there, the energy beams in a radar. So all those are self-emission sources. Then we have the propagation of electromagnetic radiation. In a while we would understand what is the electromagnetic spectrum and how does it actually function. But the idea is the basically the transmission of energy propagates at the speed of light, and this is where we have the electromagnetic radiation spectrum. And what we understand is this radiation spectrum varies in the size and the frequency. Next to it, we have the interaction with the various surface features on the earth. Now we have the propagation of the energy. The energy propagates through the atmosphere. Atmosphere contains, let's say, water, dust, molecules, vapor, and from this we have the objects that come in contact, and there is a kind of layer that is being created by all these constituents which are present in the atmosphere. So there is absorption, reflection, radiation that actually occurs, and there is where we understand the propagation of energy through the various sources. Finally, there is a sensing system, that is detection of the energy which is either reflected or emitted from the source. Then we have the various data products that are there. So we convert the photographic images from a photographic form into a digital form. Then we interpret those digital forms, do an analysis, find out the DN number. All of this we would understand in a while. Bring in the various information projects where we talk about errors which are eliminated and final product being laid down, and finally brought into the form of either maps or tables for use for a common people, and that is the user. So that is how the information from a remote sensing imagery actually moves forward. So we have an imagery. That imagery is obtained through the various sources of energy falling onto it. We understand this in the concept of the electromagnetic spectrum, and this is where we have the electromagnetic spectrum. So it varies from radio waves to gamma waves. Now as we move towards the gamma waves, we have shorter wavelength that is seen but higher energy. So infrared has higher wavelength. The wavelength is higher in case of infrared, but the energy of infrared is relatively less. So outside the visible, we have ultraviolet at one side and the other side is infrared. Now, whenever we are talking about remote sensing, we include three ranges. Those are the microwave, the infrared, and the visible spectrum. So these three spectrums are being utilized under a electromagnetic spectrum based on the waves and the frequencies that are there. Now, as we said, there is interaction with the earth's surface. So there is a reflectance pattern that occur. Now this reflectance again varies from surface to surface. So a reflectance of a dry bare soil would be much different from a vegetation, which would be much different from a water body. So a fresh water body would absorb more energy in contrast to a turbid water body. So a fresh water body, since it would absorb more, what would happen? The energy absorbed would be higher, mainly in the spectrum of red, and therefore it would occur of a very dark color, probably black, in the case of a satellite imagery. However, if we take an example of a turbid water body, what would happen? It would reflect more of it, and therefore when we see it in a satellite imagery, it would appear close to blue-green in the shades that would be there. So that is how the absorbance and the reflectance actually determine what would be the color that would be seen. Not just this, we also understand the detection of the reflected or the emitted surface, and that happens through either the geostationary orbits as a result of the geostationary orbits or the sun synchronous orbits. What is the difference? The concept is very simple. Under the geostationary, the same area, the picture of the same area is being taken on a regular basis. Geostationary satellites are established at a height of nearly 36,000 kilometers above Earth. They cover 1/3 of a globe at a time. The orbital period is nearly 24 hours, mainly used for weather and telecommunication purpose. On the other hand, a sun synchronous satellite basically moves around and takes a picture of one place in 24 hours. So there are semi-synchronous orbits as well, satellites as well. So a sun synchronous would cover the region every 24 hours. So it would take the picture of that region every 24 hours, again go and come back every 24 hours. Usually, sun synchronous satellites are at a height of 900 to 700 kilometers. They again cover mainly based on the Earth's resource applications that are there, and mainly they are around 81 degrees north and south is the extension that is being covered. Beyond that, the polar areas are not well precisely covered. So that is how we understand the kind of satellites and the imageries that are obtained from the satellite. This we have covered in a separate class in more detail if you want to go into more detail. Now this is a picture from the IRS for the Himalayan plateau. Now this is during the months of May, and this is during the month of November. You can see the change in the vegetation pattern. Now what would happen? In the May, the red patches indicate the presence of conifer forest, but this conifer forest have increased significantly during the month of May, because the dark red shades are coniferous, and the light red shades are related to the crops that have been growing there. So we have seen how the cropping pattern has significantly changed from May to November in case of the Himalayan and the northern plain region. So this is how we actually receive a satellite imagery. Now these satellite imageries can be well understood with the help of scanners. Now scanners are interesting because what the concept is, they scan a given piece of land. So scanners basically have sensors. These sensors gather the electromagnetic radiations which are obtained either through the visible network or through the infrared network or through the microwave network. So either through the visible light or through the infrared light or the microwave, they basically gather the information. So these sensors detect the electromagnetic radiation, and basically the various objects are being explained. So what is used is MSS, which is multispectral sensors. Now scanners, multispectral scanners are special kind of sensors which have a field of view. So let's say they have a mirror attached to it, and this mirror scans a given area. So this mirror can either be fixed or has a capability to move and rotate, and with this mirror the detection of the area would be taken into account, and the total area that is covered in one swipe is known as the swath. So swath is the area that is being covered by the sensor or the scanner. Now this multispectrum sensors can be in two types. They can be across track or along track. Remembering the across track and along track is very simple. We'll do it with a simple demonstration that we have created for you. But to understand is, whenever there are signals that are received to the scanners, those signals are converted into numeric value, which is the digital numbers and these digital numbers are recorded on a magnetic tape. So let's first talk about a scanner, which is the whisk broom, which is also known as a cross track. So what happens in this case? In this case, as the scanner moves, it swipes the region across. It is moving across. So as you can see the broom which is moving here, it is across, and this is the angle of view that is covered. The area which is being covered on the ground is known as scan swath. Now this satellite is interesting because the mirrors are rotating and the field of the view is around 90 degrees to 120 degrees that is there, and this mirror, since it moves, it covers a wider area. It moves left to right, right to left, and covers a huge area. So this whisk broom scanners are also known as the across track scanners. Now, we have talked about the across track. There is a similar term which is a long track. Now, a long track scanners are those scanners which are what? They are called as the push broom. So, rather than moving right and left as we have seen, what do a push broom scanner does? It moves simply along with the satellite. So it simply traces the satellite in the same path, and this is a push broom scanner. Again, this is the region which is the scan swath, or the region which is covered on the ground, and then we have the angle of view. We have the instantaneous angle of view that is there, and then we also have the total area that is being covered, and that is the swath, which is the width which actually is being covered by a satellite in one go. So there are two important types of scanners, the multispectral scanners that are there. One is the whisk broom and the next is the push broom scanners. The whisk broom scanners move across the line. However, the push broom move along in the same direction of the satellite, and that's the major difference between both the scanners that exist. Now, whenever we are talking about satellite sensors, what is very important is resolution. What does the term resolution means? Then we would understand the type of resolution, obviously. So what is resolution? Resolution is nothing but how detailed imagery can be provided by a satellite is what is resolution. So let's say there are 2 points far off, and I can easily detect that these 2 points are far off, but I bring 2 objects very close to one another and then ask you whether you can identify they are separate or they are one. Then you would require a higher resolution to actually see this in more detail. So you would just zoom and see this in more detail and see whether they are overlapping, they are very close to one another, or they are distinctly apart. And that is how we understand resolution. So this was a simple example of a spectral resolution. So when we talk about resolutions, the satellite sensors actually help us understand the resolution, and there are 4 types of resolution that we focus on. Those are spatial, radiometric, spectral and temporal. Now what is the difference between these 4 types of resolution is very, very important. Let's first talk about the most simplest of those, and that is a spatial resolution. Spatial resolution is nothing but simply put a resolution where I am trying to identify 2 objects, how far apart they are. So let's say there are 2 buttons as you can see here, and they are far apart. So I require a really low resolution satellite to identify the distance between the 2. However, when the 2 buttons are very, very close, I require a high resolution satellite to identify, a high resolution sensor to identify whether they are actually close or apart. And this is where we understand spatial. What matters is the distance. Okay. The next we come on to is the spectral. Now spectral is further interesting. What we are trying to do is, under spectral, we are trying to identify the frequency and the sensitivity. So let's say if one is blue, one is green. I would identify this with a low resolution sensor very, very easily, that one of them is blue in color, but the other one of them is green in color. But what if I need to identify the shades of red? if I put it in very layman language, I would say the shades of red. So here there is a variation in the shade of red itself, and to identify this I definitely need a higher resolution, and this is where we focus on spectral resolution. So it talks about frequency, it talks about sensitivity of the sensors to identify the light. The dispersion of the light is something that is taken into account. So strong absorption properties of fresh water and a kind of strong reflectance by the dry surface is well explained through the satellite imageries by spectral resolution. So higher resolution is required to identify it more precisely. Now, the next one is further interesting, which is temporal. Time matters. See when the next dot would come. So we have one dot that comes in and the next dot that comes out after a gap. So I have a time to identify that two dots have been coming. But what if I have one dot that comes into play and the next dot comes up immediately after it? So there was no time delay, that was very less time delay of 1 second that was seen here, but here the time delay was 10 seconds. So in this case I require a low resolution sensor. However, in this case I would require a high resolution sensor in terms of the spectral limits, because the time is very less between the two instances that are seen one by other. The next and the last important one is a radiometric resolution. Radiometric resolution is very interesting. Intensity is taken into account. So what happens is, this is something that I cannot demonstrate it on the screen, because on screen all the intensity would look exactly the same. So I have to bring in certain model for you. Now what is done is, I have a bright source of light that is there and a less bright source of light which is there. Now what would be the final imprint that would be seen in both the cases would be different. So the resolution in the case of bright light would be much finer as compared to less bright light. So with increasing resolution, the increasing intensity that we would say, we would identify the spectral bands very differently. So there is where we use the radiometric resolution, and it focuses on intensity. So to understand intensity, we need to bring in a source of light, object through which we could see the reflection on a surface, and there where we have a bright source of light versus a less bright source of light, we would see the imprint that would be seen, and this is what is known as the intensity. So radiometric resolutions basically help you understand the intensity. Now we have the various satellite sensors that are used across the globe, some from United States, some from India, some from France, and we see the radiometric range varies. So when the radiometric range is smaller, that means the amount of intensity that we are seeing is less in compared to the spot HRV, where the intensity is very high, and therefore the radiometric range, the variations within the gray we would see is very high. And then we also have the spatial resolution in meters, which is much finer for spot HRV2, where we can see much more finer details as compared to the Landsat. So Landsat would give you a 80 meter by 80 meter, but if I want to further zoom it, it won't be clear, the pixels would be broken, and therefore what I need to do is I need to move into higher resolution. So these values have a higher resolution. Since obviously these values look with a lower value, but they have a higher resolution in terms of spatial resolution. Why? Because I can see much smaller area, but since I am seeing a smaller area that is being taken into account here, I can see that more precisely with more detail, with more depth, and therefore the spatial resolution in this case, IR span, would be much higher than the Landsat that we are talking about. So that is how we understand the variation in spatial resolution, radiometric range, and the four types of resolutions which are commonly talked about in the satellite sensors that are there. So what are data products? Under data products, we identify that there are two important things that we understand. One is a photograph versus a digital image. Now what is the difference between the two? Photograph is nothing but what is actually seen. So let's say I am standing here, you click a picture and that is a photograph. So it is what is there in the visible spectrum. However, when it comes to digital image, what we try to understand is the discrete pixels that could be taken into account. So each individual pixel would be taken into account, and these pixels of varying intensity would be kept together, and then a final picture would be drafted. So this is what is a digital image and not a photograph. So all photographs are digital images, but all digital images are not photographs, in very simple layman language term. Now whenever we are talking about a digital image, understanding digital image is not directly possible. So what we do is we break those into pixels. Now each pixel, the darkest pixel would have the values which would be very different from the less dark pixels, and therefore the values would vary from 0 to 255, and based on the kind of resolution that is taken into account, it could be 0 to 64 as well. So how many depth, the shades of white to black, how many shades could go on would be explained under those pixels. So the idea is the digital image, various algorithms are used to understand, and those digital numbers are represented at varying intensity levels, and finally there is a final extraction that is seen both in terms of quantity as well as quality, and this is what is explained under data products, what is a photograph versus what is a digital image. Now let's understand the elements of image interpretation. So these elements of image interpretation are very interesting. There are 8 major elements that we talk about, and those are the 8 that have been given here. Let's focus on those one by one. So first is the shape. It explains the outline. So with the outline, I can easily identify, let's say if it is a circle, I can say it's a well. If it is a square, I can say probably it is a house. If it is a long linear path, I can say it's a transport network, either a road or a railway. So shape depends on the outline of the object, and that helps us to understand what kind of object would be actually there. The size explains what it is relative to other. So a rural area versus an urban area, I can see more green patches in a rural area in contrast to an urban area. The size of the residential dwelling would vary. So the residential dwellings could be far apart in a rural area, but could be very clustered in the case of an urban settlement, and there is where we understand size. The next is the tone. Now tone actually explains the brightness or the color. So how smooth or what kind of surface is there explains the tone. Now when I say if the surface is smooth, if the surface is dry, in that case the amount of energy that would be reflected, which would be much more in comparison to a rough surface. So the amount of energy which is reflected from a smooth surface would be much higher as compared to a rough surface. So a healthy vegetation would be seen strongly in an infrared region, where you would have multiple layers of leaf structure that would be seen, and this would appear in light tone or bright tone based on the vegetation pattern that is there. But if the vegetation pattern, let's say, is a scrub, it would occur in the shades of grey. So that is how we understand the tone. So if it is light blue, light red color, then I would say it is a smooth vegetation that is there. But if it is scrubs that are around, that would be in the shades of grey. So that shows whether it is a smooth surface or a rough surface, and the reflectance based on that. The next is the site or the location. Now site is the location, and it helps us in actually understanding where the pattern is there. So when I say the site, it exactly tells me that this is the point where the industry is. So the exact site of an industrial location, of a mining location, could be explained through the image interpretation, where I can say this is the mining area that is seen. The next is texture. Texture explains how smooth or coarse the surface is. Now under the tone we were understanding this smoothness and the roughness with the reflectance and the color shades. Here we are talking about the fine or the coarse gradient. So let's say if it is a densely populated region, it would be much finer in the texture. However, if it is a low density area, it would be much coarse in the texture. So here what we feel is the texture, not the color. Under tone we were understanding the color, and that is a very major difference. A lot of students get confused here. So be very particular. Tone focuses on the brightness, the hue, the color. However, texture focuses on whether it is coarse, whether it is smooth in finish, and that is what governs the texture. The next is shadow. Shadow helps us to determine the height. So let's say there is a big minaret, and then there would be the shadow of this minaret that would be seen, and the resulting area would be based on that. So let's say you are sighting an area just besides Qutub Minar, so that would be the case in the shadow. But however, in another case you would have the shadows which would be very, very small if it is a simple small grassland vegetation that is seen. So shadow helps us to understand the height, and it helps us to identify the nearby features. Then we have association. Association helps us to create or interpret basically an image in a much smoother way. So let's say I explain that there are two important transport arteries going across one another, and then there is a densely populated region or a settlement. Then obviously this makes sense because there is an association, there is transport artery, and that transport artery would be cutting a region where there would be definitely people living. It won't go into jungles where there is no people. It won't carry the wild animals there. So what the idea is, we try to build in association which are of objects which are normally found together. And finally we have a pattern. Pattern explains us the layout. So let's say if I take a picture of Chandigarh, probably I would see all the sectors that are clearly demarcated. Chandigarh, Gandhinagar are good examples for the same. So I would have a good pattern where I would say, okay, this is sector 57, this is sector 58, and each of the sectors are well demarcated one after the other, and this gives us a pattern. So these are the rows of the housing patterns that could be seen. And then when I understand it with overlapping it with the real ground map, I understand that these are the sectors that are defined and a well drafted pattern is explained. So these 8 elements are some of the most important basis for interpretation of a satellite imagery, where we understand the shape, the size, the texture, the tone, the location, the shadow, association, and the pattern that is seen. Now what kind of surface would convert into what color in a false color composite imagery? So when it is a vegetation or a covered area, it would convert into shades of red and brown. Evergreen would convert into red to magenta. Scrubs would convert into light patches of brown or grey with small red patches that would be there. Fallow land would be blue to white in color. However, a cropped area would be bright red in color. On the other hand, if it is a water body, the shades would vary from light blue to dark blue. If it is turbid, it would have light blue. If it is clear water, as we have seen, in that case, it would be very, very dark in color in a false color composite imagery. The built-up area would again be in the shades of bluish green and blue. And the waste areas, the wastelands, the outcrop areas would be in the shades of brown and white. If there are ravines, they would be in the shades of greens. And finally, the waterlogged areas or the wetlands would be in the shades of black. So those are some of the common shades that we see in a false color composite imagery. So this was about understanding the image. How do we actually interpret an image, and what are the things that we keep in back of mind while interpreting an image? We would try to associate the shape, the size, the color, the tone, the texture, and based on that we would identify, overlap it with another Google map probably, or another actual topo sheet, and then we would identify which area is what. And this is one of the bases for the forthcoming researches in your generation, definitely. So stay tuned for many more lectures from our side. Have a wonderful day ahead.